Welcome back. Today I'm with Dr. Keith True, a seasoned veterinarian and MBA, and an operator who's no stranger to the front lines of veterinary care. Keith's built and managed high-performing veterinary hospitals across multiple states and is now launching his own startup clinic outside of Chicago with a bold hybrid model that will blend walk-in access as well as scheduled appointments, attempting to really adapt the efficiency to the pet owner's needs. He's a clinician who thinks like a CEO, and he's not afraid to challenge old assumptions about how to operate veterinary medicine. Keith, welcome to the Jacob Wright podcast.
Thanks, Jacob, for having me. I appreciate it, and looking forward to have a conversation and break down how we can change veterinary medicine for the better.
Yes, absolutely. So let's bust right into it. We met on LinkedIn, and we connected because we were sharing some of the same post thoughts, I guess it was what we would say. I'm curious, what was your formal history in managing multiple practices or being a part of them? And then when was the jump to saying, I'm going to do this on my own?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I'm probably a little bit different in my mindset of veterinary medicine. I think, when I was the classic, hey, I'm 5 years old, I want to be a veterinarian, and carried that with me for a long time. Due to some, life events and everything, I shifted my focus for a while to human medicine. But when I really analyzed, what I wanted to do with my life and entrepreneurship and career, I actually reverted back to veterinary medicine just because I saw so much more opportunities for entrepreneurship in this field. So I went into veterinary medicine with a business mind, but also doing it because that's what I love doing. Love animals, but I love that human connection with pet owners as well. Obviously, if you have a pet, you have that just a different personality aspect that is very, very enjoyable to talk with those individuals. But I started at a practice out of school in 2014, working for my mentor, and we grew from there, and actually got the opportunity to take over one of the practices in our group just 2 years out of school. So it was really getting thrown into it really early. Kind of volunteering to go take that project on because I knew it would, hopefully propel me moving forward, and learned a lot of things in that process, and taking over a struggling practice and turning it into a 6-7 doctor practice by the time all was said and done. But that just really ignited that entrepreneur inside of me, and just made me want to get more. And I was able to partner into another practice within our group at that point. And before we sold, or after we sold, I kind of that's when I decided to do my MBA and really just kind of go all in on the next project. And it's early on in this endeavor, but I'm excited to get this first practice open and really expand that practice into really the next thing, not just one practice, but really work that practice towards moving towards the mission and the vision for what I have, not just for the pet owners that we serve, but for me, it's the veterinarians, the support staff, the people within the business that, I really look at as my clients. And, taking that people first approach, I think is something that I'm really passionate about, and I think will help this company grow leaps and bounds as we move forward.
I've never heard that, and I think that's worth highlighting. You said that your people in your company are your clients, and I think that's a wonderful way of saying that. So it sounds like you jumped out of vet school, got into practice, was able to partner, started running a business or multiple businesses, or at least managing significantly, without formal business training, probably learned a lot by pain, trial by fire, as they say, and then went back and went to business school. So I guess my question now is, what are the maybe top 3 things you learned from your first practice experience that you are changing in how you're running your new practice?
So the first practice I took over, it was a practice that was a no-low practice. It was going bankrupt when my boss had bought it. And, I was 20, 26 years old, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was managing people right off the bat, which I wasn't a stranger to, but I also had an older associate who used to be the owner of the practice working for me too, which provided a very interesting dynamic. So some things that I learned from that is, really investing in your people and making it clear of what your intentions for growth within the practice are. Really making that mission and vision of what you have for that practice known to the people that are working inside that practice, even if you're inheriting those staff. But, make sure that the people you have under your umbrella in that practice believe in that mission, believe in that vision, and want to push that practice forward. I will say, something I learned from the beginning is, don't just have people working for you because you need a warm body. Have those people who, fit that description of what I just described, and your business is going to grow leaps and bounds, especially when you yourself stay true to that mission and vision. I think some other things I learned is make your practice accessible. Don't, get people in the door, show them the service that you provide is, top notch. Show them that you care, stay true to yourself and to your mission, and make that central to how you operate every single day. And people will gain that trust in you, and that will help get your practice up and going. And, I think I gave you two things for sure there, but I think there was probably some other learning things that came within there as well. But at the end of the day, I think the overall thing is invest in yourself, operate a good business with good customer service, and you're not going to go wrong. I think that's the main thing that I learned from my early days on is as a partner. I wasn't even a sole owner of that, but I learned a lot during that initial experience.
You are talking now about this walk-in hybrid model for your new clinic. Is that something that you are copying from your old practices? Is that how they were running? Or is that something where you said, this is a gap, I want to do this?
I've always accepted walk-ins. I'm not going to say that the model is a distinctly different from what we've done before. I think walk-in is a great way to grow a practice quickly, and that's how we've operated before. We did this somewhat hybrid scheduling, but in our old practices. But I feel like we, over time, and I think that might be a natural progression for a walk-in practice, but became much more rigid in our appointment scheduling, where the walk-ins kind of took a back seat. Now, some of our other practices in our group remained walk-in long term, and obviously very successful. But it can sometimes put a strain on the team if you're not staffed appropriately. I think that there's also some strain to the clients as well, who want to get in and see the certain veterinarian for the visit. So I'm trying to kind of meld those two together. Yes, we'll have walk-ins, but you'll be able to schedule an appointment with somebody that you're wanting to see for certain follow-up. But I'm staffing those hospitals to be able to accommodate those walk-ins, those same-day visits, whether it's for an emergency surgery, whether it's for a last-minute vaccine to get into the boarding facility. I want to make it convenient for people to get in and, not be turning people away, but at the same time, staff it appropriately so we're not putting excess strain on the team that's there.
It sounds like this is a go-to-market strategy, maybe more so than saying, oh, we're a walk-in clinic. And I think that is great. When I was operating the mobile clinics, we wanted to do that. And we did do that, not walk-in, but same day, because we're coming to you. And that has its own logistical challenges, as you can imagine, because now you're driving to your people rather than them coming to a building. So I know at one of our locations, we had a brick and mortar facility that did the walk-in hybrid visits. And to get it going, it works tremendously because you get that word of mouth. Oh, they're open. They are accepting new clients. You just show up, whatever. And then when we got to a certain volume of clients, you start to say, please call ahead, or please look online quickly to see if we have open slots. Not trying to turn them away, but you get to a certain volume where you go, okay, I don't want to give half-ass service to a scheduled appointment and a walk-in appointment. So I think that's great. Next question for you. Why now? What was the point in your life where you said, I'm going to commit and go in and build this hospital now? What were the factors in that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think it's it seems like everything happened very quickly, but when our practice group sold in 2020, and during that 3-year employment agreement, I was trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. It's hard to plan exactly what your steps are while you're working full time, doing an MBA, running 2 practices, and trying to put all the pieces together.
And have a
I mean,
family.
and have my wife and 3 kids, and coaching kids sports and all of those types of things. It's hard to make sense of it, but I mean, full disclosure for me, I'm like, hey, I'm going to explore what is it that I can use my skill set in this corporate setting. Is it something that I should explore further? And I did do some exploration within that field, but just at the end of the day, just kind of realized that um, my personality, my mindset, my goals weren't able to be confined within that company. And when I exited my employment agreement and sold my remaining equity in that deal, um, I took some time off, to be honest with you. I was kind of burnt out and needed a little bit of time to um, kind of compose myself and gather my thoughts as to what was needed to do next. Um, I, when you're trying to build something from a point of being burned out and not able to really connect the dots inside your own mind of what's needed, I felt myself like rushing to get to that next thing. And, once I kind of took a step back and admitted the reality of the situation for myself, I started to get some clarity. And then things kind of started to fall in place. It took me a little bit of time to find the right location, but the location is underserved. It's not the biggest of cities. It's 40 miles west of Chicago, on the kind of the edge of suburbia and rural parts of Illinois. But it's a place that holds a special, it's a special location to me. It's a town that my wife and I lived in for 6 years and raised our 3 kids in. And we've since moved back to our hometown, which is 20 minutes away. But um, it's to go back and to launch something in a community that holds a special place in your heart and will always hold that special place in your heart. It seemed like the logical place, especially with the mission and vision that I'm trying to achieve.
You asked me a question on our last call, so I'm going to ask it to you. What is your differentiator?
So I think my differentiator really comes down to, maybe I'll make this a little bit broader. I think is just growth mindset. And I think it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but I think that, the practice group that I'm trying to create and am creating really embraces that growth mindset. I think the veterinary experience has looked almost identical from the inception of veterinary medicine as a profession to what it looks like now. Call, make an appointment, come in, get the service provided, walk out. Well, pay and then walk out. But with obviously we've added some new technologies in here, but I think veterinary medicine and we're slow to adapt, we're slow to change, and it's probably not just solely through veterinary medicine or solely a veterinary medicine problem. I think that's just a human nature problem in general. But you know, I there's got to be a way to do things better. We can be more efficient. I think we can implement technology and embrace different ways of doing things so that we're not constantly talking about how we're burned out, how we're booked out, several weeks in advance and can't serve the clientele that we already have within our schedules. And constantly trying to be finding veterinarians to fill this need. So by embracing different ways of doing things, by improving our efficiencies, I really think that there's an opportunity to create rewarding careers that solves our retention problem, but also put processes in place that improves our workflows and makes us more efficient. And to me, when we improve efficiency, that's a way that we're able to serve our clients' needs and get them in same day, but also a way that I think we can address the rising costs of veterinary care as well. And now I'm not going to say that I'm a low cost clinic by any means, but if we do it efficiently and we're able to still maintain that great client experience, but do it with more individuals and more clients and more patients, I should be able to stagnate those prices and keep those prices reasonable, which is obviously becoming a significant problem within our industry.
You touched on a nerve for me talking about being able to pass down cost improvements or cost efficiencies to clients. Doing research in various sectors, on average, 47% of top line revenue goes to administrative overhead. And we've talked about this before, but not to try to blame admin staff. There's just been such a buildup and delay of trying to implement new technology into practices that we must have an influx of admin staff, which then eats margin for providers and ultimately causes price increases for the client. And then as you grow, you have linear cost, 47% here at this location, 47% here at this location. And I think you're exactly right. We're getting to a breaking point in the veterinary field where pet owners don't really have the cash anymore to say, okay, I'm going to go do this. They don't have that COVID stimulus that was passed out to everyone. So you got a puppy and, oh yeah, I'll go do this dental cleaning or I'll go do whatever. It's not like that anymore. People do love their pets like family members, but do they spend on the healthcare like family members? I'm not sure that they do. So I like hearing that. And I also think as a profession, if we were able to focus all of our people on care, on doing the work, then you have direct service throughput. You are the person doing the work, which increases your rates or increases your amounts of people you can see. All win-wins. You're now about roughly 4 weeks out, right? From
Correct.
opening or of target opening date. How are you setting the staff culture today? Like, I know you're talking, or maybe you can share, but I know you're talking to various staff members. How are you creating your culture today? And what are those things you're doing to make them say, hey, we're part of an efficient machine. This is what we do. This is how we operate.
Yeah, so holding interviews and with both veterinarians and for support staff, I made that very clear from the beginning. Not necessarily like, hey, this is how it's going to be, but it's, hey, I value input from my team. I don't have all the answers in my mind. And in fact, sometimes I think my mind's running at a thousand miles an hour and I need to take a step back. But, leveraging, kind of creating that ownership mindset from within. And using, I love the term entrepreneurship because not everybody is meant to go, and start a company and do it. But there's a lot of great ideas that come from within. And I made that very clear within my interview questions. So that's, specifically for, my support staff and, technicians, client concierge, all of these people from within. I don't want them hiding these great ideas that can make our practice better when it's something that I probably wouldn't have even thought of. But, from the veterinarian side of things, and I think this is something that can probably go with the differentiator as well. I'm very big about preaching veterinary ownership and getting equity in your practices and becoming great leaders and not only medical care providers. I think the best veterinarians are going to be the ones that have those intangible leadership qualities that can make them communicate better, run better practices, all of these types of things. But when it comes to talking to veterinarians and even just doing minimal, not really advertising my job listings for veterinarians like super well outside of Indeed and putting some posts on LinkedIn, Now, I talk about not just hiring associates. That's something that I've kind of done from the beginning, even when I was hiring veterinarians at 27 years old and not really knowing what I was doing. Now, I make it clear that I'm not just looking for associate veterinarians to fill a gap until they're ready to move on to the next endeavor of their career. Like, I'm looking for future partners, within these practices, and, really showing you what value you can unlock and what joy you can unlock as an equity holder, a business owner, whatever that is. Whether that's in my umbrella of practices as we grow, or empowering somebody to do it on their own, like, that's what I think was, you set that tone. And when you give people the confidence to do that and help them grow within your career, within their careers, through leadership, through ownership, through intrapreneurship, entrepreneurship, whatever that might be, um, you're going to do well as a business owner, but you're also going to create other opportunities for other individuals. And um, that ownership culture that I can talk to and speak to with the veterinarians is an opportunity that I was given, and, opened up doors for me. And I just want to be able to do that, for more people moving forward. But I mean, even just minimal outreach for a startup, I had too many veterinarians apply, which is something that we don't hear about in veterinary medicine at all anymore. But when you put something out there that's different with different goals, there's things that look past what just the base salary is going to be. And it looks into the future of what you can do, both personally, professionally, that's going to accelerate the growth of your own career, but also give you that opportunity to build some wealth for yourself too, which is something that I'll talk about all day to veterinarians. But I think a lot of veterinarians are afraid to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So I like to open that door.
What amount of thinking or thought process, because what I'm gathering is you have this kind of passion and fire for empowering your team and building this culture of growth and ownership. You said it, that term, ownership culture, which I think is exactly what you build in a company that is going to be successful. Is people are bought in, quote unquote, to the business. They feel that if somebody didn't sweep the floor and I'm on my way out, I'm going to go, well, what the heck? This is my floor. Well, you're just the kennel tech. I don't care. This is my floor. I want it to look clean when somebody comes into my clinic. That's sort of the vibe I'm getting. How much of this mindset did you build in business school, or did you always have it? Because what I've known is that this is not really talked about at all in vet medicine. It's starting to. Schools are starting to have business conversations and maybe people management and org behavior conversations. But for the most part, it's medicine, and then you're out in the world.
Yeah, I think I'll answer it in a couple ways. I think my mentor set a good example for me, and did give a lot of partners really good opportunities within our practice group. Even when it was independent, and so I look. I think that the saying, build upon the shoulders of giants. Like, I'm not trying to reinvent everything that I've ever learned. I had a very good foundation that was instilled in me from that start. And I'm trying to expand that and bring that to more individuals. Obviously modernize that a little bit too. Now fast forward to business school. Obviously you did that. You learn how to read P&Ls, you learn how to do corporate finance, all of the stuff that veterinarians just like don't even want to even think about. But to me, the most important thing that I took out of business school was not how to read a P&L or how to go raise money or how to do all these other things. It really came down to the leadership side of things. And I think that, leadership, one, is something that can be taught. Even though I was thrown into it, I felt like the foundations of my leadership grew with formalized education. But I still think that the intangibles that come along with being a good leader are going to be what's going to accelerate the growth of your business moving forward. And if you don't have people within your organization that see that too, and you're not developing leaders from within that care about the hospital, care about people from within that company, that hospital as well, I don't think your practice makes that leap from good to great. And I think that we need to see more of that, that more empowerment, so that we don't look at these positions as just jobs. It's something that we're passionate about doing. I'm not saying that our whole world and our whole life should revolve around what we do as a profession, but we spend the majority of our day in the work environment, and it's important that those hours that we spend there are enjoyable, for at least the most part of it.
Yeah.
So,
or challenging, or
yeah, correct.
In a way that builds your thought process, not that tears you down.
Exactly.
Let's jump into technology. You went to business school, and I keep hammering on business school because in business school, all you're talking about is business, money, tech, efficiency. I mean, that's basically it summed up. So you go there, and meanwhile, you and I are in this industry that is, plainly put, typically a laggard sector of adopting new things for right reasons, right? You need to have proof of concept. You need to have data to support whatever it is that you're building. What is your thought today and position on technology in the practice, and how do you believe your setup today is going to enable you to be a practice of the future?
Yeah, I think technology is, you're absolutely right. Technology is something that we do lag on. Even practice that I was working in 2016, when we took it over, did not have digital x-ray, was paper records.
In 2016.
In 2016.
Wow.
Yeah. Needless to say, digital x-ray was one of the first things that got put in there when I took that over. But, that just shows, that's just obviously an example that is, just kind of a little, even way past its time, but we're slow to adapt. And whether that's, there from multiple facets, but even relate that, how many practices are utilizing their practice management systems to the full extent, for efficiency? You can relate that to a lot of practices nowadays, and I see technology as the way to make our practices more efficient. And I feel like sometimes efficiency gets maybe a bad rap. It's like, hey, we're rushing through appointments to go see the next appointment, so we can whatever, generate more revenue, or whatever that connotation might be. But in a typical day, a typical practice where we're scheduling 30-minute appointments, how much of that 30 minutes is actually the veterinarian being face to face with that client? And when you really break it down, it's a very small percentage of that 30 minutes. So what technologies can we utilize? And I'm not talking just AI scribes and everything, but also delegation to our support staff. The administrative stuff and checking people out, invoices, generation, all of these types of things that are taking up staff time, that takes away from that face-to-face client doctor relationship or client staff relationship, that we can have it done almost automatically, so that we can see more pets. Now we're not turning people away. We're servicing more, more of clients. We're servicing more pets. We're in turn creating a more efficient practice, which now we can pay our staff more. We can retain talent, and we can continuously take in new clients. Obviously to a certain point, there's a bottleneck at some point, but I just see technology as the way to solve our shortage problem, our retention problem, and our ability to take in new patients.
Yeah.
And I just think it's paramount to, it's a lot easier to adopt and adapt new technologies than it is to go open 13 new veterinary schools to pump the job market full of a bit more veterinarians.
Yeah. And sidebar, I had a conversation with Dr. Ken Rotondo, if you know him or not, or heard of him, but we were talking about the same thing. And his position is that he doesn't believe we have a shortage problem. We have a retention problem, and we have a job allocation problem, but we don't have a shortage problem. We also have a burnout problem. But he was also saying, he's like, why are we building more vet schools? Not that new schools or new ideas aren't good, but that is a long time horizon solution. And so his prediction is that in the future, we right now feel that we have a shortage, but at a certain point, we're going to have this influx of veterinarians. I'm not going to say that they're not going to be well trained or skilled, but you would wonder, the first graduating class out of a new school, first curriculum, what is that skill level overall going to be comparatively to an established school that's been around for a while? Anyway, the point is, are we just trying to create a influx that's now going to be a saturated market of veterinary professionals, or are we utilizing our veterinary professionals the best we can today? So in any case, yeah, in Kanban thinking or Kanban philosophy, which you probably talked about at some point in your time operating businesses, is a Japanese business operations philosophy. And the core concept is that the only thing in any business that matters is satisfying the client. And you apply that to any business. It could be a manufacturing company. Okay, satisfying the client is delivery of goods. In veterinary medicine, it's that 30-minute face-to-face. That's all that matters in the whole entire business. So now we're talking about, if all that matters is that 30 minutes that you're talking to that pet owner, then how do we increase that amount of time? How do we increase those amount of interactions? And that's where you and I agree. Technology is here to increase that time and reduce the workload of the other things. You mentioned last time that artificial intelligence is at its infancy today, and that it's only going up from today. Let's fast forward 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What does AI in practice look like? What does it do?
Yeah, I mean, my dream practice scenario is, I mean, I think it goes a lot with what you're working on and everything too, and your philosophy is that the people in the practice should be, everybody in the practice should be focused on patient care. A lot of that should, whether, and I'm not just saying like, hey, we're going to eliminate receptionists, we're going to eliminate all these things. It's just, you know, instead of sitting there answering phone calls and responding to emails and trying to check people out all at the same time while trying to provide a good customer experience, it's hard to do. So if we take that off the plates of these people and we can solely focus on that customer experience and pleasing the client, no matter, that's the main goal. You can do that more and more. But what I envision is you walk in to, and this is what we're going to be moving to. You walk into the practice, you're immediately greeted by an individual who's your concierge for your visit.
Yeah.
They're going to
Yeah,
make sure that you're comfortable. They're on, they're on your team. Yeah, can I get you some water? Can I get you a coffee? Let me get you into an exam room right away. Is there anything else I can get? But then, from there, you should be able to walk in to the exam room, whether that's an assistant, whether that's the veterinarian right off the bat, immediately dive into the exam, having conversation, building that trust with that client. And, all these treatments, all of these, recommendations are immediately being put into the medical record, and, prescriptions are being filled based off of what you're doing, to where you go, all right, I'm going to have my technician team, my assistant team do X, Y, and Z, which is actual physical things that need to be done to the pet.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time that animal is returned back to their owner, everything's all done. Invoice is done. Medication labels are printed. Treatment recommendations, discharge instructions are all done, right? Yeah. And they're checked out, and they've got their, and we continue to maintain that amazing customer experience throughout, and they're on their way, and with everything that they need. And I'm not sitting at a computer typing stuff up. I'm not having team members, doing clerical work in order to get all of this done. And yes, there's a lot of moving parts to that need to be accomplished, but we're fast forwarding, we're dreaming, we're envisioning what the future is looking like. Yeah. And I think that is something where that type of environment, the veterinarian, the team all of those people who got into veterinary medicine because they love working with animals and should love working with people are doing only those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to allow that joy, nobody of veterinary medicine to shine through.
Yeah.
And nobody got into this to type 3-page medical notes.
No.
Nobody got into this to, make phone calls of little importance, of whatever that might be. We got into it because we love animals, we love people, and we want to make them better in whatever it is that they do. And so that's what I see technology as a tool for building the clinic of the future. But, kind of going back to that growth mindset and just our profession as a whole, we have to be willing to not only adopt it, but also implement it
and shape
implement it to its full, and shape it and be a part of it. And, that's part of, with my, startup, I'm working with a lot of smaller companies because when you get in and you find companies that have good ideas and, even if they're small, like I'm small fish in a big pond. There's other companies, tech companies that are small fishes in big ponds, but there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to that in the veterinarians being a part of creating that new piece of technology, something that we are going to be able to, are willing to implement in our own practices, but also help shape it and tailor it to what the actual practice needs. And I think it's an opportunity that more veterinarians should be jumping on board to as well.
Today, this is just a random question. How are you going to handle payments? Are you going to require upon, intake or phone call appointment, like, hey, leave a card, or are you going to do cards on the way out or payments on the way out? Have you not that I'm just curious.
That's a good question. No, it's a good question. I get the point of prepaying for an appointment. I do get that, especially when you're strictly appointment based and if you've got new clients and, high no-show rates and all of that. Definitely something businesses need to do to kind of protect that part of the business. I think with the walk-in model, you don't, even if you have a no-show, you've got people right there who are ready to be seen. Mm-hmm. So it's something that I see as I don't love asking for money before I even apply, to do any treatment or anything like that for us. So to me, all of that is going to be paid upon leaving, and obviously there are some, financing options and stuff that are available now that can, more of a spread your costs over time. But I think the only thing that I am going to consider is, telehealth is going to be part of our practice model as well. Prepaying for those telehealth appointments, I think, is easy. That way you're not handling it afterwards. So I think that's probably the only, exception to my rule, but
that's funny. Didn't telehealth really had ups and downs there, didn't it? It was exploding in COVID and everybody was talking about it. Everybody had an opinion on it. And now today it's like, oh yeah, we do telehealth, and then people are like, okay, cool. And then that's about it.
I think there's still a need for it. I think it comes down to we just don't know how to implement it in the best way right now.
Exactly.
And obviously there's people on both ends of the spectrum about like, hey, most of the stuff we can do during telehealth, or and then obviously the other end, like telehealth is a huge risk. We need to make sure we have valid VCPRs and all that, which I get all of that too. And I'm not saying telehealth is something that we're going to operate outside of a VCPR, but there are plenty of things that we can diagnose through telehealth and teletriage. And at the end of the day, if it's something that we can't handle in a face-to-face over the screen conversation, then the answer is, hey, you know what? I think it's best to come in. So it provides that access. Yeah, it's that simple. And it provides that access that clients want. We're in a day where and I'm not just talking veterinary, we want it now. We order something from our phones on Amazon Prime and we expect it at our door before the end of the day. The same is for veterinary, advice. if the veterinarians are not utilizing technology to answer their clients' needs, even same day, then where are we going to get that advice?
Google.
Social media, websites that may or may not be reliable. All of these, I've seen it myself on different reels and stuff like that on Instagram of just veterinary advice from non-veterinary professionals that are actually flat out dangerous to pets. So we need to be ahead of that and be able to have that connect with our clients, and make it easy. And I think telehealth is just a way to do that. And, this is coming from somebody who was invested in a telehealth company that did not go well and did not adopt and adapt to the needs. But that's not something that is making me stray away from telehealth in general. I just think it needs to be done in a better way, and one that actually fits the needs of the clients and makes it easier for the hospital.
That's exactly right. And what I found with telehealth in our group was that it was all about the concept of telehealth was great. The providers didn't have any pushback. The clients didn't have any pushback. The challenge was workflow implementation. Where and how do you recommend telehealth and then get it booked, right? Like even just thinking about, well, how are you going to get the right link to the right person at the right time without sharing a personal email, for example, from the doctor? There was all of these questions and logistics about how to actually implement that made it more challenging. But then once it got set up, after testing a few different workflows, it's amazing. I mean, the doctor goes in, they see a chronic case, let's say, they go, they do it, and they say, you know what, I just want to check on this, but it doesn't require you coming back into the clinic. I'm going to send you a video link in 2 weeks, and we can talk then. And the clients love it, and they go, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I get to just FaceTime my vet. Yeah, it's that easy. And the best part is the call's recorded. It's transcribed. You get all of the information just like you would in a normal visit. So yeah, I think it's more of an implementation challenge than this is a debate if we use it or not. It's just how do we use it?
And I'll give you my hot take on telehealth real quick. If you want to talk, I mean, during COVID, when everybody was working from home and veterinarians are still going in every single day, if you grow telehealth within your practice to where you can have a dedicated telehealth person, it's like, hey, I'm in the clinic 3 days this week, and my one day I'm doing a full schedule of telehealth remotely. Like, talk about a nice job perk for a practice. Is, hey, you can be home seeing telehealth from whatever 8 to 4, 8 to 5, one day a week as part of your schedule. I'm not saying I have that baked into my business plan right now, but I just think it's such an opportunity to create a little bit of remote work for veterinarians within your practice, and you have that as a little benefit. Like that's a nice selling point to attract
So we
veterinarians
actually
too.
had in California, we had some interesting laws go into effect for January 1st of 2024. The first one was that and somebody's going to come at me about my interpretation, but this is basically what it said. It said that for a new client, new patient, for wellness only, wellness considering very brief physical exam and I want NextGuard, that an RVT could establish the VCPR, a registered tech in California, could see a new patient, never been seen by a vet. And granted, the RVT does TPR, checks at this, looks at this, does a very brief physical, not saying that's equivalent to a vet, that they could get an RX prescription underneath the license of the vet of that practice. The second one was that a VCPR in California could be established by telehealth, which was another debated topic. Like, okay, you've never seen this patient, and yet you can now write a script for this pet right out the door. You've never touched it. Anyway, what we did in California is we leveraged both of those laws to their full extent. And what we did was we had RVTs in vans going out to people's houses. And there was a central vet on a computer. And when it got time, we show up, RVT, it's me seeing this live with an RVT leading the appointment. We show up, new patient, never seen it, start doing the physical, take weight, TPR, vitals, stuff like that. The client says, I really want a side of point injection. Well, a tech can't just give that, it has to be approved. So we would hop on a telehealth call really quick. The RVT would say, hey, this is what I see. This is some skin lesions or some dry skin or scratching, whatever. They said that they've had this before. What's your call? And the vet could say, well, I really don't like the way that looks. I'm going to come out next week. Or sure, give that side a point, but I need to be there for 2 weeks from now to see it improve or whatever. And it was really cool because these vets that were working with us were able to be at home or, and even in some cases, we had one veterinarian who was on call for ER. So he's on call for doing extreme, crazy stuff, but he's able to take FaceTime calls during the same shift, like double working, which was a very interesting model. So last wrap up here, I want to ask you about what success looks like 30, 60, 90. So what's your objective in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then we'll go end of the year. What is that? What are some things that you want to hit, milestones that you want to document so that you can look back and say, yeah, I hit those?
Yeah, 30 days. We're talking about that's, opening day or kind of right there. I think the 30-day mark is onboarding our team and really driving home what the mission and vision of not just the individual practice, but the company as a whole and what we're trying to achieve. Third, that setting that groundwork for mission and vision alignment is paramount. And also I think within that 30-day too, and part of what I'm doing today is going out and visiting with local businesses that to really become ingrained in the community from day one. So 30 days is that. All right. 60 days is, we're seeing several walk-ins every single day. We're booking appointments. We've got we're going to be very surgery and dentistry focused, as well as a practice. So, we're booking out surgeries and, both orthopedic and soft tissue and same day emergent stuff, right off the bat. And, maintaining that culture of our team wanting to get people in, not being no, we're too busy, we're almost closed, but hey, come in and we'll get you helped right away. That I think that first 30 days of a startup, or there's going to be a lot of learning that goes on during those first 30 days. But I think just remaining adaptable during those 30 days. 90 days is really having that, having the systems in place that are going to make this streamline. And by 90 days, I think you've got a good basis of what those workflows are going to look like with the tools that you have, to where you start being able to optimize things a little bit better based off of how that opening has gone. I think to go into a business with a rigid mindset and not being adaptable to the clientele that you're serving, going back to keeping the clients happy, I think is a bad way to go about it. But you want to stay on the tracks a little bit, not make giant swings, but I think that 90-day mark is really optimizing. By year's end, so year into this first practice, you hear like some people say it's impossible to do $1 million in revenue during your first year as a startup, which I know is not true. I've seen it done many times before, but my goal is $2 million in revenue. Not because like it's all about the money, but there's got to be some type of scorecard that you're able to keep up to what your business is doing. But also during that growth phase is maintain a great reputation and a great trust amongst the clients that we serve and the community that we exist in. And I think I'll take it one step further of what I personally want to be known for, is, like I kind of going back in full circle is, I had mentioned before, my clients are the veterinarians that I hire and partner with, and the teams that I build. And in turn, I want them to take care of our pet owning clients as well. But I really want to be known as somebody in this industry who creates opportunities for more individuals, and does that at scale, and does it in an ethical and in an ethical way and a sustainable way that keeps that flywheel of business owners kind of going through, but also kind of on the acquisition side of what I want to do, creates seamless ownership transitions that keeps the legacy of these longstanding practices alive. And it it's I think it goes back to just who I am. I do I want to be a helper of people. I've had some significant health challenges in my own life that I think changes my outlook of what I want to get out of my time here on Earth. And I think being known as somebody who you know created opportunities, provided trustworthy, excellent service, and did it in a line of work that I love and have loved for the majority of my life. I can't think of anything better than that.
Well, Dr. True, I must tell you that you inspire me. And although my dream was to become a veterinarian, I like to think that if I did, I would be like you, or I would at least want to be like you. I didn't achieve that goal of mine, but you inspire me. And I wish that if I were a vet, I would be like Dr. True. So, Dr. True, thank you for being on this show. And we'll be in touch when it starts getting released.
Thanks, Jacob. And I appreciate all of the time you gave me. And even if you're not a veterinarian, there's plenty of ways to contribute, as you already have, and it's needed. It can't just be veterinarians alone who are changing this industry for the better.
Cool. Thank you.